As I began my teaching career, I felt like I had acquired a lot of knowledge about the stages of development in children, as well as content information for all elementary age students and subjects. I believed that I was very well equipped for teaching the kindergartner students that I had that year. After all, they were just kindergartners. I figured that I could follow the teacher's manuals for teaching lessons, and I'd always been really good with children, and every job I'd had so far was with children. However, once the school year started, there was no time to plan. Some of my students were very difficult, and I soon discovered that there was much more to teaching kindergarten than I had ever really imagined. I had thought that designing a few centers at a time would be sufficient, but my principal pointed out to me that some of my centers did not focus on the skills and concepts I was teaching in that day's lesson. Trying to keep centers tied to the day's lesson was much more time consuming than I'd ever imagined, especially for a first year teacher who had no pre-made materials at all. This meant that I needed to really understand the kindergarten skills and concepts and the continuum for helping my students acquire that learning. At the same time, I was finding that just knowing how children grow and develop and being able to explain some of the theorist teachings was not enough to manage a classroom full of students. In other words, I was quickly learning that the three most important commonplaces in my classroom were the learners, the teacher, and the subject matter. I had to find a way to teach the kindergarten content, and I believed that building relationships with my students would help me better manage my class. I asked a lot of questions that first year, and I received a lot of answers, but there really weren't a lot of changes. Reflecting now, I believe I listened to the ideas my colleagues and administrators provided, but I didn't fully implement those ideas. In some cases, I didn't even fully understand the suggestions that they gave me to incorporate in my daily classroom routine. I wonder if I was even asking the right questions. I had low confidence when I first started teaching because I felt like the other teachers seemed more relaxed and actually spent less time preparing for their lessons than I did daily. Henderson states, "Throughout our studying, we have found that being led learners creates change through self-examination and acknowledging personal growth in our beliefs about teaching. Through 6 years' experience teaching kindergarten, first, third, and fifth grades, my confidence has grown, my understandings of best practices and how to implement them have increased, and most of all, my ability to collaborate with my colleagues and to understand research has grown tremendously." One of Valley's reflections that I recognize myself using is the technical reflection. In fact, I believe that this type of reflection has challenged me to interweave the knowledge I have gained in many graduate level classes into my own experiences in the classroom. Rather than just learning to describe the different philosophies of theories or explain various types of classroom management techniques, as I did in my undergraduate studies, I've now learned to use and apply that knowledge in my own classroom with my students as I teach. As an educator, I have become a lifelong learner and a problem solver. For example, I brainstormed ideas for how to solve the problem of challenging behavior. I knew the importance of the learners, teacher, and subject matter in any lead learning project, so I wanted to ensure that I focused on those commonplaces when designing my plan. I reflected on some of the interventions and strategies that have worked in my classes over the years, and I sought out many research by those theorists whose pedagogy was most identified with my own. This is how I was able to identify two parts of my plan, those being the morning meeting and workshop approach to teaching. In using some of these elements, the two types of curriculum, and researching the benefits discussed by leading in the educational field, I determined that implementing them into my class and my first grade team would be the best solution to challenging behavior. A second values reflection type that I found myself teaching or using most of all was reflection in and on action. I reflect daily on my teaching and how much progress my students have gained. Sometimes this is a very informal reflection that I do as I move about my day, stand in line at the grocery store, or on my way home. Other times, I make notes in a journal that I keep current. I find that this type of purposeful reflection allows me to be more aware of which strategies are working, and sometimes I can even figure out a particular lesson did not work. I can figure out why, and I can move on. With this knowledge, I share my successes and my misses with my colleagues, and now that I gain much more information than I did those teacher conversations I had in my very first year in my teaching career. Maybe I had improved in the types of questions I ask. Maybe I persevere until I fully understood the discussions. Or maybe I give their suggestions more of a chance than I used to. But I do feel that I have learned much more in recent years through collaboration with colleagues and sharing ideas with my classmates. I can make small changes the next day and then note the effects of those changes. As I reflect on my lessons and my students' progress, I am now able to tweak my practice to best serve my students. My views on equality in the classroom have also evolved over time. I now realize that treating every child equally is not treating every child the same. It is more about providing opportunities to even the playing field for all learners. Of course, I knew that some children leave their houses with two caring parents who will ask about their day, share family time with them, eat dinner together, study together, and spend quality educational time together. But it took time for me to realize the impact that unsupportive families and the lack of a nurturing home environment or extreme poverty have on some of my students. These students need more attention, more time, and more or different strategies to achieve than those students who are more supported. All children can learn. Teachers need to identify those strategies and interventions that ensure success for each one. As a caring professional, I can't just hope that each of my students have someone that care about them. I make sure to be one of those people. My classroom feels like a large, respectful family. Having all children feel safe, comfortable, and positive helps their learning environment. Ensuring this learning environment within our morning meetings and workshop approaches will help us provide equality and access to all of our students. Consequently, as all of our students feel more supported and comfortable, their overall behavior will improve.